Thank you. So I'm not actually a black belt in karate. I used to do a lot of judo, though. So it's basically competitive hugging. All right, the internet of less useless things. So I actually, just to get you in the mood, I prepared a little test for you. So I'm going to show you a few slides, and I'd like you to raise your hand if you believe that the picture I'm showing you is a picture of a product that has been funded and is currently produced or in production. You all with me? Let's test it. This is the Phone Grow. This is an IoT device that goes over a wine cork. It helps you detect if your very fancy wine that you bought is a counterfeit wine or actually a genuine product. I believe the developer asked for $50,000. Please raise your hand if you believe that this is a product that has been developed or is in development. It's about 50%, very good. The next product is the ultimate cat waterer. This is the product that makes sure your cat is at all time optimally hydrated. I believe the developer asked for $100,000 to develop this product. Please raise your hand if you believe that this is a product that is in production or produced. Almost everyone, very good. This is the Beat Weeder. This is a ring that goes around and just checks your pulse. Are you alive or are you not alive? And should you die, it tells all your Twitter followers that, sorry to say this, but I'm dead. You are wonderful followers, but you can unfollow me now because I will never tweet again. And if I do, well, maybe you should follow me. I might be a ghost. Please raise your hand if you believe that this is a product that has been produced or is in production. It's about 30%, very nice. All right, last slide, or last picture anyway. This is the smart water bottle. This is a see-through water bottle with a Bluetooth connection that gives you an indication how full your water bottle is. Now, to be fair, it also gives you statistics throughout your life, how much water you're actually drinking. So it's a fair product, right? Please raise your hand if you believe that this is a product that received $150,000 in funding. Almost everyone, very good. The only one of these who are not currently in production or produced is the Ring. So hi. Like you said earlier, I'm Karl Henrik Nilsson. I used to be a developer of all sorts of hardware things, and most of the things that you use every day to call with might have some of my codes. And that's why you get dropped calls. I work in Dalarna, so if you're asking if I have a speech impediment or whatever it is, no, it's actually my accent. And I'm super, actually, I just put this slide because I want to give some appreciation, because we're in the south of Sweden, we're in Malmö. And there are people who flew in here from Poland, which is like super impressive to me because we have international people here. But there's also people from my hometown where I live, in Borlänge and from Dalarna, who is actually traveled here to be at this conference instead of going to Stockholm or wherever else. And I'm so impressed with these people. Can you raise your hand? How many people here are from Dalarna? Awesome. There are 7 people. All right, so like I told you, I'm a developer of a lot of electronic stuff, which means that I have a lot of NDAs. The NDAs basically state that if you ever cause us any harm for any of our products, we would like to have your firstborn child. So what can I tell you? Nothing. So because of this, it was a lovely feeling last year in September when I bought my very own house. I mean, I did also move in with the woman I love and all of that stuff, but house, space to do IoT things. It's just lovely, isn't it? So I had this all planned out. I'm going to build all my own IoT things. Because if I built all my IoT things, I could use technology that I've learned at all these places I've been, and I can go and talk to them, to you guys. And I wouldn't actually be under NDA because knowledge is not, NDA-able. So apparently owning a house takes a lot of time. you need to renovate, you need to shovel the driveway, do all sorts of stuff, and apparently also need to socialize with the thing they call family. Okay, so I said, okay, maybe I don't have time to build all my stuff myself, but I can still buy things and integrate them in my home, and then I can go out and talk how that worked and how you do that in very good ways. So I bought a big box of stuff from everywhere, from China, from Sweden, from Kickstarter, and I just got it all. I'm gonna do this. And after about 3 days of trying to make the router work with these devices, I just scrapped all my ideas to do this talk, and I wrote this talk instead. So let's talk about how to actually build devices that work. So my first problem was the router. I was looking around everywhere for a router, for a good router. And my ideal router is a router that I'm allowed to bring into my home, something that looks like this. The problem is that most routers look like this. They have shark fins and cool colors and blinking LEDs and, but I mean, it's just not practical. I mean, the thing is that the routers are not supposed to mate. They do not need to have the peacock feathers and colors and stuff. But routers are supposed to look like this. They're supposed to be invisible. They should work. And this thing has really a lot of antennas. And I can give you so much information on how to use this exact configuration because it looks super effective, which is why I bought it. But it really isn't. This is far better in every way, which just doesn't give them the right to have that many antennas unless they thought they would be legs. So design things to be anonymous when we're building IoT devices, when we're building things that people are supposed to have in their homes. They need to be anonymous. They cannot be flamboyant. We're not designing the lead singer of Queen. So users must want to have their things in your homes. Like if your client, let's think of our IoT devices. Let's face it, it's still early adopters, right? So we want to have the early adopters, you guys, me, to buy these things. But if we just get to home, we open the door and say, honey, I bought this thing. And she goes, what is this thing? Get it out of my house. That is not a successful purchase because they would return it. So how can we measure user acceptance? I mean, this is, of course, a quite useful skill to have. How can we measure the acceptance of a device? And there are tons of ways to do this. A/B testing, focus groups, there are lots of design rules that you can look at. But still, one of my most effective ways to do this is something that we used to call the WAF, the wife approval factor. Now, I didn't like this because it's a bit sexist, really. Because, we have a lot of female developers that build IoT too, and, all things in between and everything. So somebody renamed it to the spouse acceptance factor, or my personal favorite, the marriage interference factor. In the end, they all mean the same thing. It's what you can get away with. What can you actually make people put in their home? So a high marriage interference factor means that it will be very, very hard to put this in somebody's home. And a low marriage interference factor means that it's very easy to get somebody to have this in their home. So again, just to get you in the ball, we just had lunch. So, it's important to stretch and everything like that, so you don't get cramp. Please raise your hand if you think the following picture has a high marriage interference factor. My workspace, by the way, at home. All right, let's do another one. Please raise your hand if you believe that this picture has a high marriage interference factor. It's a bit hard, isn't it? I would say no. My wife would say yes. All right, let's try one more. This is like 50%. You have really interesting relationships. All right, last one. How many people believe that this has a high marriage interference factor? 2. Most people seem to love Apple products. All right. So getting back to our story, once I actually bought a good router, routers attack formation or whatever, I started doing the next thing, like what would I want to do? Well, one of my first things that I wanted to do was log electricity, like how much electricity is my home consuming. So I bought a device, a ready-made device that you just put on top of your electricity meter, and it would just put it in the cloud, and it just worked like magic. So I was super happy. This is going to be easy. I did this in 1 hour. Perfect. And this had this beautiful app, so I could see exactly how much electricity I was consuming at what hour and everything. So then I started doing more things, like I logged how many people are home and at what times are we home. And then I realized that now I want to take this data that I have, and I want to take that data that I have, and I want to put it into Microsoft Power BI, so I can go do like graphs and do all sorts of cool stuff and do understanding of what data we're actually using. And I called the people up and said, hi, you have my data in your cloud, but I can't find any APIs. And I would like to get my data. And they said, no. It's our data. And I get that. Data is valuable. I mean, the reason that we have so many products today from Google and from Microsoft and from everybody that gives you free stuff is because it's not actually free. You're giving up data, you're paying with your data. But I didn't want to take it back. I just wanted a copy of it. So they said, no, but you can have our wonderful report. Okay, that's lovely. I can have the wonderful report. Perfect, problem solved. So I said, yes, thank you, do that. So I got this. This is a JPEG file that was emailed to me with no labeled access. And this is not what you want. I mean, needless to say, I returned this product because this product was useless to me. What I wanted was this. I wanted something that I can look at. Okay, my girlfriend is home. She's been home for 10 minutes. Okay, power increases by 10% because we're home. We're watching TV. Power increases by 12%, stuff like that. So I can figure out what's going on. I mean, we have resolutions for most devices in Sweden is 1,000 blinks in a little LED that sits on your power meter per 1 kilowatt hour. That's an extraordinary thing. I mean, you can tell a lot of things by that data alone. We just give you, for example, in my home, if you put on the washing machine, you can tell it from the data because it has a unique signature of how much power in consumption that increases. I do not want a JPEG image. So we need to respect users. We need to give them tools to build actual IoT networks. And this is something that a lot of companies doesn't do. They don't understand that data is required to actually build IoT stuff. Because without the data, we're never going to have analytics, we're never going to have intelligent systems, right? Speaking of data, who can tell me what is the similarity between the National Security Agency and the sex toy WeVibe? Anyone? It has a back door. No, they do not. They log more data than they should. You're very close to the truth. In fact, they are very, very curious to what you're doing in your bedroom. Would also have been a very good answer. The WeVibe had a bit of bad press the other week. It turns out this is a toy that you can use with your lover or whatever, and it controls by Bluetooth from your phone. But while it does that, it also kind of piggybacks on your internet connection. And it uploads data to their cloud service. They tell you how often you're using their product, how long you're using their product, and in what settings you're using their product. If that wasn't bad enough, some versions of their product also, or some version of their app, I should say, also logs where you're using their product. Invasive enough? And this is horrible. This is truly horrible. Because they mention it nowhere that they're doing this, and even if they did, even if they did with huge red letters on their box, this is not okay. So we need to learn to be open and honest with our customers. We need trust. We need to have trust, and the users must trust us, because otherwise they will not let us into their homes. They will not put our devices on their Wi-Fi's or what we need to build smart things. Because we're building the Internet of Things. We want to help our users, right? Right? And there are so many ways that you can actually lose trust. Trust is very easy to lose. This is Revolve. So Revolve was purchased by Nexus, I think, the smart home thermostat thing. And it is a smart home hub. And the problem with this product is that a few months after they bought it, it wasn't actually doing what the company that bought it thought. So they canceled it. And as far as I can be able to find, there were no replacement products for it. There was nothing for it. You can actually make this product work. And that's an issue, because no matter whatever that company does again, people will have this in their mind. I bought your product. I paid $300 for your product, and you turn it into useless crap. You turn it into things that I could not use. And you've broken trust. Now, you need to have a fallback plan. If you're going to do a prototype or you're going to try something, you need to have a fallback plan so people give you their money will still be happy. So this is the narrative clip 2. It's a camera that you wear, and it logs your life. They had a cloud service that you could see all the pictures. It was organized in time and everything. Quite nice, quite well done and all that. The camera wasn't the best, but it's a small camera, so you kind of have to accept some trade-offs. And they closed down the service just a few weeks ago, or last week, I think. So you couldn't do it. Now, there's a difference here. So I don't know if they were just lucky or if they actually thought about this. But they had a really good open source community around them. They had people that went in and said, okay, I still want to use my narrative. So people build systems around it. People build systems to be able to use this. So when they actually failed, when they turned off the servers, people who bought this, they weren't out in the cold. They could still get services. They could still use things and use their camera. They also released an app to help them work and all that sort of stuff. They had a fallback plan, or somebody at least created a fallback plan for them. So a good connection with your open source community is a good thing. Because think about it. If we do not have a fallback plan, if we take your money and give you nothing in return, I mean, that'd be like selling a mobile phone and charging somebody to build apps for it. So what I'm trying to say here is that we cannot give our customers the short end of the stick. We have to be nice to our customers. We have to plan to be able to continue giving them a service, even if our company failed. Great, you with me? You all awake after lunch? Awesome. All right, continue story time. So after, we had the discussion with the company who sold my power meter, and I was starting to, automate lights and things, putting things everywhere in all these places and, all this stuff. And remember I said I bought things from China and from Kickstarter and things? Some of the developers for these products, I think they actually have new jobs now, because I recently saw one of their new products that was delivered. Great people. So the thing was that I started noticing problems. I test my things before I install them in walls and things like that. And they were fire hazards. They were genuine fire hazards. You connect them to 240 volts and you had like 1 millimeter between the 5-volt things. That's not a good thing. That's a dangerous thing. And a lot of these were extraordinarily poorly developed. So if you're actually going to build an IoT device, bring in electronical developers. You're going to need people who know what they're doing. It's easy to use prototyping tools. It is easy to use prototyping tools. And in fact, many of the products that I bought still used prototyping tools. They were delivered as an Arduino with a shield. And even if you can make this work, apart from a small focus group, this does not a product make. We need to think about this. If you go to other processors, like mobile MCUs, you will be down to cents, pennies, to be able to build hardware devices, not 300 crowns for a Raspberry Pi 2. So So these are things to consider. How can we build effective devices like this? Because like I said before, we want to help our users. We don't want to burn their houses down. It will affect our Amazon rating. All right, so a while later, I had some success. Automation was installed. Everybody in my family, in my house, my guests started using it. They were happy. Even my girlfriend was using it, which for me was a big success. Yes, yes, yes. They're using it. They like it. And then just 2 weeks later, they betrayed me. Batteries. So building a battery-powered device that doesn't suck is kind of a skill. It's not a very hard skill. A lot of people have done it before me. So what happened was that after 2 weeks, the batteries died, and I had to change them. And of course, I wasn't going to go and change batteries every 2 weeks. Nobody does that. So I started looking at, I removed the device that was having this problem, and it's like, what's the actual issue? Why is this happening? And it actually ran an Arduino Pro Mini. So I did my own tests on the Arduino Pro Mini, and this is my results. So a 9-volt battery on an Arduino Uno lasts for slightly less than a day. An Arduino Pro Mini that's unmodified lasts for about 10 to 14 days, roughly the amount of time that I got from the actual device. So, still makes sense. So, I did some modifications to it. I removed the power LED and changed it to a much better regulator that costs an enormous amount of money, probably over 10 Swedish crowns. And I implemented something I'm going to show you a little bit later called sleep timers. And the estimate, because it's been running for a few months now, is 3.5 years on a 9-volt battery. So by doing small, simple changes, like using more effective step-down systems, like removing LEDs that nobody's going to see because your things are in walls, you can actually improve things a lot. And sleep timers, again, this is something we need to think about. Sleep timers is something that people like me, who build hardware devices, know about. But if you have one person in the team who's building things, you might not know about it because it's more or less specialized knowledge to some people. Basically, what it is, in its most simple form, is we tell the system to, okay, give me the data. Great, I got the data. All right, and then send it to me. Okay, here's the data. Now go to sleep for 1 hour. Turn yourself off and turn yourself on in 1 hour. They can do that. Most systems can do that. Okay, so it comes back up. I go, okay, I have the data. Okay, give me the data. Here's the data. Now go back to sleep, and it just repeats like that. Because honestly, there is very, very, very few reasons to get a room's temperature every second, even every minute. Every hour is probably fine, or something in between, or perhaps even less. Right? Another thing that a lot of these does and have a big problem with is the data protocols that they're using. So I started analyzing how is this communicating with the service that they're using. And it's like, okay, there's MQTT, there's AMQP, there's Stomp. I'm not going to bore you, so I'm not going to go into details with this. I'm going to give you a different type of demonstration of what they are. So I call it the mustache demonstration. This is roughly the data size of AMQP, MQTT, and Stomp. So AMQP is a respectful mustache. MQTT is a slightly smaller, more piquant. And the Stomp is, the sheriff mustache from some Western movie. I'd like to introduce you to HTTP. HTTP is what almost all IoT devices use because people know how to use HTTP. It's very common, but it's not often the best choice. Because the smaller protocol we use, the less power we need. Think about it. It takes a huge amount of time to hook up to a Wi-Fi, to send data over HTTP. In fact, if you compare MQTT with HTTP, you're going to land at something like 21,000 packages with the same amount of data as you did time it took, say, 1,700 HTTP packets, so almost 1/10 of what you can do with different protocols in speed. And also we have to think about like radio frequencies. Maybe we don't even need Wi-Fi. Most things use Wi-Fi because it's simple. You don't need field gateways, like bridging your device with other things. But it also takes more power. So Wi-Fi is not always optimal. If you want to save money, we have a small CPU, like 8 megahertz, doing string building and listening for and doing HTTP requests is, again, not a good idea. But if we're doing a prototype, if we're building something that we actually want to get out in production quickly, just I want to try this idea. How many people here can set up a Node.js service that listens to HTTP requests? So basically everyone. So if we want to try an idea, so don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be elitist here. Like if you want to try an idea, it's just perfect. Node.js, HTTP. Ha! Look, here's our data. So we need to pick the right things for the right time. Production? All right. Let's think about how can we optimize battery stuff and all that things. Prototyping? Let's go quick to market. Let's, ship things. But let's not leave it there for production. All right? Awesome. So we also need to design with failure in mind. So when my system went down, like when the battery died, things stopped working. If you install an IoT system and your light, when you put it in to control a lamp, and your trusty old lamp switch stops working, you're going to be annoyed. You cannot trust the thing are going to hold for your design purpose. So what they had done was basically this. They allowed my lamp to be hooked up to the device, then they hooked the device up to the lamp. Okay, that's clever. But what if they did this? What if they put the button to control the device, to basically give the device state, and then allow the button to control the lamp so that the device can control the button? That means that I would not have had to fail search in the dark. And since none of us has flashlights anymore, we have cell phones, it is very hard to hold a cell phone between your teeth and a screwdriver and, going this. It's just not working. And with this approach, you can do so much stuff. You can analyze, is there light? Yes, you can do all sorts of things if you actually consider building things to fail. Now, another thing that annoyed me a lot when I was checking out these things were cloud services. So we believe that systems are not supposed to fail. If you look at this road, they did something wrong. Yes, people do things wrongly, and this annoys the hell out of me when I see it. That's why I take a picture of it. But I can still walk on the road. The road still works. What happens if my internet connection dies in this scenario? Anyone? What happens? I get no data. I cannot control anything. It is just dead. If you implement something simple as logging, you can do things like this. You can save data, and you can actually, bring yourself to keep them up to speed. Now, field gateways are something that bridges your devices to the internet. They can be a network-enabled device, something like a router or something, that makes your home system work as long as your network is up. This is a huge improvement over having things that require the internet, because the internet can be slow. Your network is usually at least 100 megabits, unless you have my first router. And you can add so much things like, you can add dual uplinks, you can use Wi-Fi and Ethernet, you can use dual systems like this. It just depends on how secure you want to be. You can use 4G networks, Ethernet, Wi-Fi, and all that sort of stuff. You can even split it up to use like AVS and Azure, or Google Clouds and Azure or AVS, and also you can just take this as long as you need it to be. But you need to consider it, and a lot of people don't consider it. Now, should this presentation have failed, which hopefully most of you can see, I use a Mac, so I don't get blue screens. Please don't crash, because I said so. I would just have gone over there, grabbed my other computer, and continued the presentation. Why? Because I designed this presentation with failure in mind. Everybody awake? Awesome. So a lot of these products didn't work the way I wanted it to do. So I built my own beautiful creations. My beloved trees didn't really agree with me. So I started thinking about where can I put things? And this is another part where some, not all, but some IoT developers really, really fail. So in the army, we have this kind of thing, out of sight is out of mind. This is also correct for IoT devices. How many people can, without looking up, tell me how many fire alarms are in the roof? How many sprinklers? You have no idea. Neither do I. We don't think about it. They're just gone. So if you put up another one in your home, nobody would think about it, which is also a very good placement for things. That's why I like the Ubiquiti router. It's just you put it there and people just don't care about it. But if it's the size of a tractor with antennas and blinking LEDs, you tend to draw people's attention. Another thing that I notice is that people rarely look under things. So if you look underneath your chair after this talk, you will find that there's probably gum. And it's not there because the cleaners are lazy and cleaners are good people. They just doesn't notice it. Because people rarely look under stuff. So a lot of the devices that I bought, they wanted to put things inside walls. And it can be a really tempting thing. But I've also seen people designing things on the internet. I'm going to build this thing that people can put in their walls, and it will return humidity. Okay, but what happens when something fails? There are design ideas that are perfectly fine for putting them in like putting them in floors to detect if you have water damage or stuff like that. But in most cases, it's better to try and find like a box or something that you can actually put it in. Think about that people might want to upgrade or remove or do things like this. So how many people in this room are IoT developers? None. Lovely. 1, 2. 2 IoT developers. And, well, sort of. So we're 3. So why did I stand here and talk to 600 people about the Internet of Things? You're obviously not my target group. Any guesses? All right, so let's explain that. What is the similarity between Santa Claus, an IoT expert, and the Easter Bunny? Very good. They do not exist. Do we have any full stack experts? No full stack experts? That's very surprising. We have 1, 2, 3 full stack experts. So just let me get this straight, sir. Since you raised your hand, I'll pick a little bit on you. I hope that's okay. You're an expert at servers, hosting environments, networks, data modeling, business logic, API layering, user interfaces, user experience things, and business and customer needs. Correct? You're an expert in all of these things. Would you like to work for us? Now, all of these things are also useful. We need these things to build IoT networks. There's the same. There's no difference. I cannot do user experience. I have a problem figuring out which side to go in when I look at the toilet doors with signs, which apparently means unisex. And if you look at the IoT, there's another batch of things on top of this that we need to know. So now we also need to add stuff like circuit design. We need to add MCU programming, machine learning, security, which a lot of people really disregard in the IoT sense. We need to add big data, we need to add communication protocols, hardware debugging, and 1,000 more things. So we hardware developers, people like me, I know C, that's about it, that's my skills. And a little bit about MCU programming. I need you guys. Because I'm guessing that you've seen on LinkedIn, there's a lot of people, probably me included if you looked, we claim that we're IoT experts. How many people have seen that? I've seen that. But it all comes down to your definition of what is an IoT expert or a full stack expert. We define an expert in this field as what I'm good at. I'd like to define an IoT expert as somebody who's good at circuit design and MCU programming and possibly also C or C++. Because that would be me, and that means that I am an expert. But if we're going to be honest, we have the same issues of building IoT systems with the same solution as everybody builds. Now, I go around and I talk to people about IoT and they say, I'm not an IoT developer. No, that's fine. But you still do not want to see an API built by somebody who only worked in a microprocessor system for the last of his life. You don't want to see that. Now, the thing that dawned on me like this was after a meeting that I had with some really brilliant people at a large refrigerator manufacturing company. You can take your pick. They're basically the same brilliant people. And they said to me, Karl, we're going to innovate. Okay, that sounds scary. What are you going to do? Well, it's a refrigerator. Yes, we're going to make smart refrigerators. All right, so how are you going to make smart refrigerator? We are going to make it so that everybody can know everything about everything in their refrigerator. Sounds amazing. How are you going to do it? We don't know. All right. So we sat there for a whole day and discussed different approaches, and at the end of the meeting, we were all pretty convinced that we could make scales working with this. We could make small scales that would, you had your designated position for your milk and for your butter and everything, and you configure it with an app, and it would just be lovely. And, scales, right? Sounds like a good idea? We thought so. So I went home to my wife, and my beloved at least, and that's when I realized that I don't know the first thing about user experiences. And trust me when I say your spouse can be the most motivated product owner you ever had. Because, they care about you also making money to the family. So she said to me, honey, have you guys thought this through? And it's like, yeah, probably, it's a good idea. All right, and she walked over to the refrigerator and opened it. A fridge is a stackable storage space. It's not something where you can put scales in. On Christmas, it's playing Tetris to get stuff in, right? A scale would limit space in it. It'd just be less. We never thought about it. It was her first idea. Because people are different. People have different skills. When I talk about field gateways, that is basically just building APIs that can communicate with microcontrollers. If I build services, and then I put this thing, but I can put that on the computer. I can put it on a computer with a radio communicator or Wi-Fi, and anybody here who can write C or C++ or Python can do that API and probably do it better than we can do it. Because hardware developers were not built for this. We talk about offline support. We never had to work with this before because for us it's a new concept. But people who work with this all their lives, there are people here in this room, probably a lot of people in this room, who build websites with offline support, correct? You're aware of these things. And when we talk about field gateways and stuff like that, we think about our own systems. We don't think about collaboration. You guys have been doing that for years with centralized login systems and all that sort of things. We haven't started yet. And we've also been really good at excluding people. Like, no, we're IoT experts. This is what we do. This is hardware. We go to conferences, we talk about hardware. And you don't even need hardware to build an IoT system. It's just an add-on. It's just an additional thing. Think about it. If you have a server room and a server with redundant internet connections, all right? How many people here can write a script that could ping that server? Seriously? 10? Okay, how many people here could write a script that could ping a server? Thank you. So the thing is that this would tell us we have electronic power in that room, right? We have no microcontrollers and stuff in that room. We have a server that does other things. Well, with that information, we have redundant internet connections. If we have several servers in that area, we could even use that to figure out, okay, the internet is probably up because I'm pinging other servers. This server is probably down, or the electricity in this room is down. Okay, let's ping other servers in that room. All right, now we can build a model that says that, okay, everybody died, the backup power is probably dead. Automatically order a technician to go there and fix it. This is a full-blown IoT system to fix servers. We never included an IoT expert. Any programmer can do this. And it would be well within the definition of what the Internet of Things aspires to be. When we want to connect things to the cloud, that's a lovely idea. But as long as data is the new oil and people want to be like, I own this data, it's my data, we're going to have many internets of things. But only as long as we allow us IoT experts to have our own playground. Because as soon as you bring in you guys, you start to ask stupid questions like, why? And we have to explain ourselves, which is hard. Now, connecting to one Internet of Things is difficult, but there are a few companies that are actually starting to do a lot of good things in this. And I'm sorry, John, but Apple is one of them. So they just actually put HomeKit as a default app for all of their devices. So you can now have an open source system where you can build JavaScript implementations that communicates with your phone. Extraordinarily simple. But there's also another open source communication that's used OpenHub, which is even more powerful. You can do rules and you can do extraordinary programming and things like that. So I'm just getting started with that one because it looks, they have a bridge between them, which means that you can use the actually quite beautiful Apple app if you happen to have Apple users around you, and the OpenHub system, which together is a really powerful thing. Again, mostly for home automation, but we need to start somewhere and show that we can actually do things with this. We can demonstrate how these things will work together, right? And when we're talking about how to build less useless things, let's talk about software architecture. How many architects do we have? Oh, a few. All right. So is this a good architecture? Let's get a monolith with one endpoint and things just talk to it. Isn't that good? Because that's most products I've seen. And when you want to add something else to it, you need to do like a lot of things. And maybe if you want to use MQTT, that's not possible because you can't actually rewrite the monolith. Anybody been in this situation before? I know I have. And the thing is strange because we would never do this in a software solution. We had adapter patterns and we have queue systems. And the IoT systems are really getting there. Like you have the Azure IoT Hub, you have the Amazon things for this, you have smart pub sub-clients and all this stuff. And we're getting there. But most products that I've analyzed and reverse engineers still doesn't do it like this. And I'm ready to put quite a lot of money on bet that the company, when I went and said, I want to have my data back. And I said, no, you can't have that. I'm going to bet that they had this design, not this, because if they had this, they just ask somebody, okay, make a new consumer so people can get a security token and get their data, right? And you guys have also figured out that administration really is the devil. You know this. You have continuous integration. You have build scripts. We have, a lot of really cool things. Some companies that I've been around helping, professional companies, still use the Arduino IDE, which is, not hell, but at least a penance. So we need to actually have you guys. We need the knowledge that you have. We need to step up our game. We need to do more with testing. We need to have those why questions. Because otherwise, we're going to have a really bad time. Because we're not going to build things like this. We're going to build horrible messes. So, what did we talk about today? Always design for WAF, or marriage interference factor. It will build us a better system. Select the device most suitable for the job. If we're prototyping something, if we're building a prototype, use Node.js, use ACTP, use Arduinos. Anything you can get, just do something, ship it. It'd be awesome. But not for production. Keep things hidden, but accessible. Design things with failure in mind. Right? That includes your companies. If you actually, if your company bankrupts, make your users be able to use your hardware. If you can't replace it, things will be there forever. You will never get rid of them. And as fun as that sounds, having a really old, outdated thing that uses 240 volts inside a wall is a bad idea. And with most software systems, the end goal is scalability and adaptability. All right, some final words for this. The Internet of Things is not just a product connected to the internet. If you believe so, I believe that you are somewhat wrong. The Internet of Things is representing a physical object on the internet. And many people will try and tell you differently. Like they will try and tell you something like, no, you need to have a hardware device. You need to have these things. Or actually, no, you need to have this specific hardware device. You need to use these specific things. And I'd like you to tell them that they're wrong. Because you don't need any specific things. You need to be able to do what the sentiment of it. You need to be able to detect things about the physical world and react to it using, the data and reacting to it using digital solutions. And the simplest ideas can really become the best products. Or at least make you a lot of money. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll take some questions because we have about 10 minutes left. Any questions? Yes. Which one is the most useful IoT device? I'm going to go with the power sensor. Knowing how much power you consume is just amazing, because you can go into like so many details of things. Like I told before, if is a lamp on or off? I know the baseline power consumption in my house. Like, okay, I know how much it drains. But if a lamp is on, it will drain more. If the washing machine is on, it will drain more. When the washing machine is done washing, it will actually drain less, and I can do push notifications and all sorts of things. So just knowing how much power your house is consuming or your apartment consuming is a great thing for me. Questions? Yes? So I think the question was, when you talk about home automation, what do you actually automate? Very good. So I dislike illogical things. I will give you an example. How many people here has a significant other in any way? Awesome, awesome. How many people have a significant other that sometimes in the night goes up to pee? So do I. How many people has a bedroom that is very hard to navigate in the dark? I do. So people turn on the light. I have a 40-watt light bulb in my home. It's a very annoying thing when somebody turns on a 40-watt light bulb at 4 a.m. in the morning. Where am I? They're coming for me. Wait, who's coming for me? I mean, so one of the first things that I actually automated was just simply smart lights. Sorry. Like, how can we actually, so nowadays, if it's after 11, like 23, and they turn on the lights, we just have a LED lamp going around the bed that turns on instead. Because you don't want to be like, I'm blind. So that's something that you automate. So basically anything like that, stupid things that you always want to do. Like, I want to do this at these points of time. I'm currently building systems for that. It's getting winter in Sweden. It's cold. So one thing that I want to automate is actually just my remote-controlled heater. I want to flip it on at around 10 when I'm going to bed and check that something is actually draining power so that you see that my car is actually hooked up. So I didn't forget to connect it. Stuff like that, But actual automation. I hate people that come around, oh, I had this IoT device. It turns on my lamp. It's not an IoT device. It's remote control. IoT without automation is just remote controlling. Did I answer your question, sir? Great. More questions? Yes? Excellent question. So cell phones have this nasty little habit of sending packages looking for Wi-Fi networks. So that's one way that I'm using. So I have this little 4G router that I installed a custom firmware on. And what it does is logging for people looking for networks. So that helps connecting how many guests I have in my house. And the second one, just with finding family members, is how many people are connected to the Wi-Fi. But since I'm doing both, and I have the IME numbers and the MAC addresses of all my family members, if they disconnect from the Wi-Fi, I can still know if they're home or not. So that's how I do it. But there are many ways. You can do Bluetooth. If people have Bluetooth enabled, you can very easily see how many Bluetooth devices are in the ring. You just ping them, looking for them. So there are two ways that I use. Questions? Yes? One of my favorite questions, thank you. So what do you think about security? What will be the implementation of security in the Internet of Things industry as we continue to get more and more and more devices? Excellent question, sir. I believe utter horror. We are extraordinarily bad at security. We do not enjoy security. We think security is a problem. We do not actually like things. We like things that just work. Like baby monitors is an excellent example. We buy a baby monitor for our phone, we pick it up in the box, we turn it on, we take up the app, just worked. Why did it just work? Because there were no pairing, there were no security, there were no cryptation, all that stuff. So I honestly believe that as much as we want to talk about security, as much as we could improve it, we could use cryptation, we could use so many things, but it will not help until something really horribly happens. And when something really horribly happened, we will get better at it for about a few years, and then we'll start to decline again, because that is roughly what's been happening with HTTPS, which we're finally starting to embrace as something that is good. But honestly, I believe that we probably need to have. I think the sad thing is that until a child or similar is being kidnapped and tortured because somebody used a smart device to snoop and find out where they are, people are going to continue disregard security in preference of simplicity and single things. And as horrible as that is, I believe that companies will not themselves follow in this. We discuss it. I discuss it with all my clients, the people I meet. I discuss it at conferences with other companies. And all the developers, we know this. And we are not monsters. The problem is that we do have, project managers who has budgets, and budgets are monsters because they make us do the less good thing. Any other questions? All right. Thanks for letting me blab about the Internet of Things for you for, an hour. Thank you.